Tonight on FiOS1 News Now, a former Chappaqua drama teacher agrees to a new plea deal that will land him on the state's sex offender registry. What's next for Christopher Schroffnagel and the embattled Chappaqua School District?
A full day of jury deliberation, but no verdict in the Bridgegate scandal. We'll have the latest from the courtroom.
A real Halloween horror, a needle is found in a piece of trick-or-treat candy. Now the New Jersey State Police are investigating.
And police say Mets all-star pitcher Juris Familia is the subject of a criminal complaint alleging domestic violence. What the Mets say about the charges.
FiOS1 News Now.
Good evening and welcome to FiOS1 News Now. I'm Mike Gilliam.
And I'm Courtney Kane. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll get to those top stories in just a moment, but first, a check of the forecast.
Yeah, meteorologist Joe Chaffee's over in the FiOS1 Weather Center. Not too terribly bad today, Joe.
No, not at all. We did warm up. We tacked on about 5 degrees to yesterday's numbers, and now we have even warmer air coming in. And that's why we're seeing some clouds coming in from the west. But overall, it's a pretty nice evening. Glen Cove at 58, 57 at Newark, Morristown 59, 55, the Double Nickels at Poughkeepsie, White Plains at 54, Montauk at 54. That wind is from the south, so that's going to make it warmer tonight. So will the cloud cover. We will not see temperatures down at frosty levels like we had this morning. Forecasted 7-day coming up.
All right, Joe, thank you. We begin tonight with breaking news out of New Jersey.
Mets all-star pitcher Juris Familia is facing domestic violence charges, according to a filing in the Fort Lee Municipal Court. Now, in documents provided to NorthJersey.com, police say Familia caused bodily injury, and they observed a scratch to the chest and a bruise to the right cheek of the victim.
The name of the person was redacted in the court papers. In a statement, the Mets say they're aware and monitoring the situation. Ironically, the 27-year-old pitcher is featured in a new ad campaign for an anti-domestic violence organization. Current Mets third baseman Jose Reyes was suspended 51 games for violating Major League Baseball's domestic violence policy at the start of the 2016 season.
And now to more breaking news in Westchester County.
A former Chappaqua drama teacher will accept an amended plea deal that requires him to register as a sex offender and possibly serve additional probation time. FiOS1's Ariana Lubelli has the details on the new deal involving Christopher Schroffnagel.
Former Horace Greeley High School drama teacher, 42-year-old Christopher Schroffnagel, has agreed to accept an amended plea deal that will put his name on the state sex offender registry. Newcastle Town Court officials say Schroffnagel's attorney, Stacy Richmond, notified the courts yesterday that the once trusted educator will take a new deal that comes with an additional charge of endangering the welfare of a child and sex offender registry. The agreement came on the same day that the Chappaqua School Board announced the resignation of Superintendent Lynn McKay, who parents believed ignored allegations surrounding Schroffnagel. In early October, Newcastle Town Judge Douglas Krause rejected a plea deal that Schroffnagel agreed to in exchange for admitting that he had sexual contact with his former underage students. That deal would have only required Schroffnagel to serve 3 years probation and surrender his state teaching certificate.
He's very ill.
Schroffnagel was not at the plea rejection hearing, and according to officials, the plea deal hearing scheduled for November 10th may be postponed due to the teacher's illness. Court officials say that they have received an official doctor's note regarding his medical treatment. With the added charge, court officials say that there's a strong possibility the 3 years of probation will be increased. Parents told us last month that they were hoping the revised plea deal would put Schroffnagel behind bars.
I still think the overwhelming evidence will come out and will support the fact that he's a predator and needs to be put away for some amount of time.
I think he deserves to go to jail. I think he deserves to be a registered sex offender at minimum.
According to Newcastle Town Court, after Schroffnagel officially accepts a plea deal, a hearing will be held to determine what level of sex offender registry he will be placed under. Reporting from Chappaqua, Ariana Lubelli, FiOS1 News.
And the Chappaqua School Board is getting ready to meet behind closed doors in less than half an hour. They'll go into executive session at 5:30 before taking public comment at 7:30. And of course, we'll have much more in tonight's meeting coming up on the evening edition.
A Long Island man involved in a street racing crash that killed 5 teenagers has been sentenced to up to 4 years in prison for a probation violation.
Corey Glow was rearrested last month after firing a shotgun in his backyard, prompting a judge to change his sentence. FiOS1's Cecilia Dowd has covered the story since the start and has more.
Corey Glow had nothing to say as he was led out of court in handcuffs. Glow was sentenced to 1 1/3 to 4 years behind bars for his role in the illegal street racing deaths of 5 teens.
Our wounds are too deep and they are too open for anything to ever really satisfy. I pray that this is enough and that we are able to close this chapter and to move forward.
Family members of the teens killed were in the courtroom when Judge Murphy, the same judge who had given Glow 6 months behind bars, revoked that sentence, now giving him up to 4 years in prison. This after Glow pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment and prohibited use of a weapon for shooting a gun into the air in the vicinity of others, including a 3-year-old. Now in court, Judge Murphy said to Glow, there's a stark difference between jail and prison, something you'll soon find out. John Lonborg, father of victim Carly Lonborg, had a hard time speaking outside the courtroom.
I wanted to see this kid go before schools and talk to children to avoid this happening to any other parent. That's what I wanted. At this jail time. But some other parent not to have to go through what the 5 of us, what us 5 families have gone through.
Corey's shown no remorse from day one. We've been saying it and saying it and saying it, but now the court sees it.
Things that we wanted to hear the judge say the first time around, we were able to hear a little bit of this time.
Judge Murphy reminded Glow in court that he had asked him to live a life of service, making the victims proud of him so that their lives weren't lost in vain. He then said, "Mr. Glow, you proved to me who you are." Glow's mother had nothing to say to members of the media. Glow was represented in court by legal aid. Reporting from Mineola, Cecilia Dowd, FiOS1 News.
Well, he's scheduled to be sentenced tomorrow, and federal prosecutors are pushing back against an attempt by attorneys for former Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke to avoid jail time. FiOS1 News has learned the government is strongly urging the court to sentence Burke to 51 months behind bars. On Monday, prosecutors submitted a letter to U.S. District Judge Leonard Wexler asking him to deny Burke's request to avoid a prison term. The ex-chief pleaded guilty in late February to a civil rights violation and obstruction of justice. He admitted to beating a Smithtown man who'd broken into his department-issued SUV and stole a duffel bag. But the 52-year-old disgraced chief recently asked the judge to sentence him to probation to care for his mother, who is suffering from lung cancer.
Today marked the first full day of jury deliberations in the Bridgegate trial.
FiOS1's Kimberly Wallace has more from outside the federal courthouse in Newark.
By answering the way you're answering, you're directing a verdict of guilty. Bridget Kelly's attorney, Michael Critchley, was visibly upset by the judge's decision on how to answer today's second question from the jury. Can you be guilty of conspiracy without the act being intentionally punitive toward Mayor Sokolich? The question circles around last week's stalemate when the U.S. District Court judge ruled a motive is not needed to find the defendants guilty of a crime. Kelly and co-defendant Bill Baroni face 8 counts each, including conspiracy and wire fraud, for the 2013 GWB lane closures allegedly meant as political retribution against the Democratic Fort Lee Mayor Mark Sokolich for not endorsing Governor Christie during his re-election campaign. The judge answered the jury back, siding with prosecution. Yes, you can be guilty without punitive intentions.
I'm optimistic. The jury's deliberating, and basically during the course of the deliberations, and I will not comment.
The final question the jury asked today: can the defendant be found guilty or not guilty of count 2 without being guilty or not guilty of count 1? Or must they be found guilty or not guilty of count 1 for an assessment of count 2? Count 1 is the conspiracy to obtain by fraud, knowingly convert and intentionally misapply property of an organization receiving federal benefits. Count 2 is obtaining by fraud, knowingly converting and intentionally misapplying property of an organization receiving federal benefits. The judge's answer: quote, each count is to be evaluated independently. Each defendant can be found guilty or not guilty without regard to any other count.
They all did a really good job of putting together their version of the facts, and now it's up to the jury. to give us what the reality is.
And jury deliberations continue tomorrow. Of course, it's unclear when a verdict will be reached. Stay tuned to FiOS1 News for updates. For now, that's the latest here in Newark. Kimberly Wallace, FiOS1 News.
And let's get a check of your forecast.
Meteorologist Joe Chaffee over in the FiOS1 Weather Center, and some nice sunshine today, Joe.
Was a very nice day. Now we're going to transition over to a warmer air mass, and in response to that, the atmosphere is producing a few clouds, and we can see them on the futurecast coming in through for the overnight. With this overcast that we might get into, it'll keep temperatures up. So everybody will stay pretty much in the 40s, and some of the warmer urban areas probably won't drop much below the low 50s. And then right after daybreak, we should go partly to mostly sunny. Temperatures will be climbing up into the upper 60s and low 70s on Wednesday. And then we're setting up for an even warmer Thursday ahead of the next cold front. So if you think back to how the weather was on Sunday, we'll have a repeat on Thursday, and then a front comes through with some showers late Thursday afternoon into Thursday night. In the meantime, but temperatures today anywhere from 2 to 7 degrees warmer than where we were at this time yesterday. Most temperatures right now are in the mid to upper 50s, and on the satellite radar we can see these clouds starting to move into parts of northern New Jersey, and they'll eventually spread elsewhere. So lows tonight will be mostly in the 40s, except 39 at Monticello and 51 for Oceanside and Bay Shore. And we're looking at partly sunny skies for your Wednesday, with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, northern areas, upper 60s on Long Island, till some lower 70s, and nearer just over 70 in New Jersey. Into the 70s on Thursday, windy and cool on Friday. Courtney and Mike.
All right, Joe, well, with just a week to go before Election Day, things are getting heated in one local state Senate race. We'll hear from both sides coming up.
And after nearly a decade on the run, one of New Jersey's most wanted is back on American soil and behind bars.
Plus, it's been named one of our area's safest towns. We'll show you why. But first, here's a look at some winning lotto numbers.
FiOS1 News is brought to you in part by Cover Looks Better Baseboard Covers by Plastic.
Keeping your home fresh and modern takes more than paint and decor. Replacing outdated baseboard covers elevates your home's look and feel. Cover Looks Better Baseboard Covers by Plastics are made of a highly durable patented